Hello, everybody. Welcome to day two of Energy Week. Yesterday, we uncovered that energy isn't something that we just simply have or that we lack. It's something that we generate, and it's shaped by the balance of those inputs that are nourishing us, the food, the rest, the meaningful relationships, the sense of purpose, as well as those drains that are depleting us, such as stress, toxins, or unhelpful thought patterns. So by understanding this, we can take charge of our energy instead of feeling like it's something that's completely out of our control. Yeah. We also pinpointed our own energy drains and some boosters, and we committed to some small intentional changes to see how they can really make a difference and start building momentum for us this week. If you missed a session, be sure to catch the replay. It's the foundational piece that you don't want to skip. Okay, so that will be in the links to this email here, but also I'll send you on in after this one with the replay link for this as well. Okay, so today we're going to be diving deeper into the root of energy generation. We're going to be talking more about my most favorite thing, minerals. I'm going to explore why minerals are so foundational to our health and energy. We're going to look at understanding our unique mineral profile and reveal some of the hidden imbalances that are going on that can be affecting how we're feeling. We're going to break down some really key mineral ratios, and I'm going to show you some incredible insights that it can give us for your health, for your energy, and for even your personality. So without further ado, let's get started. As I introduced yesterday, minerals are the building blocks to life. They're the spark plugs that ignite every biochemical reaction in the body. I like to think of them as our little sparkle, if you will. They're foundational to fueling that energy production, supporting that nerve function of the communication from the body and the brain, and also balancing hormones. This is going to influence our mood, our metabolism, our messaging systems in the body, as well as that structural support. So building and maintaining strong bones, teeth, tissues, all those kinds of things. Without mineral balance, energy production just falters. Symptoms start to creep in: fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, hormonal imbalances, digestive issues, and more. Dr. Linus Pauling actually says that you can trace every disease and ailment to a mineral deficiency, like literally every ailment and disease to a mineral deficiency. When minerals are balanced, our body has everything that it needs to function optimally. And remembering, your body is an absolutely amazing piece of machinery. It knows what it's doing. It's always doing its best with what it's got. Okay, so if we give it what it needs to do its job, it's going to do that for us. The key that I want you to remember is that minerals do not work alone. They are constantly interacting with each other. Sometimes they're working together, sometimes they're working against each other. And this means that when even one mineral becomes imbalanced, this can trigger a whole cascade of effects that can have implications to our health and our energy levels. This is why supplementing minerals without really understanding our unique mineral profile can sometimes do more harm than it does good, even if our body technically needs that mineral. I've got a really good example here where a client was struggling with sleep. They often had heart palpitations, and they had that wired and tired feeling, when you feel like you can't really relax, but you're absolutely shattered. And she'd heard that magnesium was calming, that it supports sleep, that it's essential for heart health. And so she started supplementing it, but she found that her symptoms actually got worse. Now, when I reviewed her mineral profile, I noticed that absolutely her magnesium levels were low. And so that made supplementation seem logical. But her sodium levels were also low, and that's where the real issue lies. Sodium is crucial for stress resilience, for adrenal function, and magnesium and sodium have this antagonistic relationship where supplementing magnesium can actually lower sodium levels further. When sodium levels drop, this can lead to increased anxiety, heart palpitations, heightened stress responses, exactly what she was experiencing. Now, in her case, supplementing magnesium, even though she needed it, without addressing that sodium imbalance, actually worsened her symptoms. And this is why understanding your unique mineral balance is so essential. Also, to you not wasting money on supplements that your body doesn't need. So it's not just about adding more of what's good, like magnesium is good for us, everybody needs it. It's also not about just supplementing what is low in your profile. It's about understanding the relationships between minerals and to create that body harmony that your body needs to thrive. So this is why when you're wanting to work with balancing minerals, it's important to work with a practitioner that understands these relationships if you're wanting a protocol that's going to replenish your body in a way that truly works for you. With all this talk of mineral profile, you might be wondering, well, how the hell do I even look at my mineral levels? Like, how do I know what they are? Most people, when you're feeling off, you go to the doctor and they'll do a blood test. But if you've ever had a blood test done and it's come back and everything's been normal, but you I don't feel normal, something's definitely wrong, then you're not alone. And the reason for this is because blood is a transport medium. It's really but the body really tightly regulates its blood levels by actually pulling things from the tissues and then depositing things into tissues to keep that blood fairly constant. Our minerals actually live inside our tissues. Most minerals, like magnesium, 99% of magnesium is in our tissues. It's not in our blood. So if we're taking a blood test, we're not understanding what's actually in our cells, how our body is functioning. It's not giving us an accurate reading. We need a way to see inside the tissues, inside those cells. Now, fortunately, we don't need a pound of your flesh to do that. We just need a teaspoon of your hair, your most recent hair growth. Hair is a cellular tissue. As it's growing, it's passing through your lymph, through your blood, through extracellular fluids, and it locks in the metabolic processes. And as the hair comes out and the outer layers harden, it traps those in. Then, using a technique known as spectroscopy, we can analyze that mineral content of the hair, and this test is known as a hair tissue mineral analysis, or more easily said, HTMA. By looking at your hair, therefore, we get a clearer picture of what your mineral balances are and how they're potentially affecting your health. But here's the even cooler thing. The founders of this method, Drs. Paul Eck and Lawrence Wilson, actually developed a system for interpreting HTMA that goes beyond our physical health. This is where it really blew away my mind away and really validated a lot of my feelings and really changed a lot for me. Because it can also reveal patterns of personality traits, of stress responses, and of emotional tendencies. For example, just by looking at your mineral profile, I can tell if you're a type A person that's always on the go. I can tell if you've got a really strong inner critic. I can tell if you're feeling stuck, numb, or disconnected. One client came to me, she was really overwhelmed and exhausted. She was snapping at her loved ones and she was really doubting herself at her work. In her HTMA, it revealed that her copper relative to her zinc was imbalanced. A common pattern as well that I actually see in childbirth, because we need copper to make baby, and often if we don't have the proper liver support to clear that copper once we've had baby, it can cause these issues, and it also can cause estrogen dominance and hormonal imbalances as well. So for her, by addressing the imbalances with liver support, with specific nutrients, she was able to feel calmer. She actually gained confidence and she found more patience and joy in her life. Like literally her mood, her personality changed just through doing this support. Now, how many of us have felt like it's just normal to feel snappy, overwhelmed, to feel like we're constantly really on empty, brushing off exhaustion, brain fog, even mood swings, just as part of life or even just part of our cycle? Yeah, it's super common. But what if it isn't just about your schedule and your workload? What if these feelings are actually connected to what's happening inside your body? And this was absolutely the case. It always makes me emotional. This was the case when I found HTMA. I literally hated who I was. I was consciously, it just didn't make sense to me that I was so low, that I was tired, that everything irritated me. My family actually had an intervention where they would sort of tell me I need to change my attitude. And that led to this crazy dramatic explosion of frustration. And I literally ran away from home, just wanting to like escape, get away from everything. It was like I was watching my reactions, how I was behaving, and thinking like, she's psycho, like what the hell is going on? But I couldn't do anything about it. Like I consciously was there, like, but I was just my body was playing out these reactions, and I'm like, I don't want to be this way, but I don't know how to stop. It literally felt like I had an imbalance, something was going on inside of me. I since found out that it was largely related to my own copper imbalance. And I've spoken to many people since that have experienced exactly the same kinds of things, particularly with mood and having a copper IUD implanted and then starting to see these reactions starting to come through. And it's because of this copper imbalance that goes on. They don't have the adequate minerals to support and balance this extra copper in the body. And through these protocols, through guiding this, they've been able to change their personalities, get back to themselves, be themselves again, be that calm, beautiful person that they are, that they want to be. But it's so much easier. No, it's not just a mental game, it's internally as well, our biochemistry that's leading a lot of that. And this is the power of HTMA. It's not just a test, it's a blueprint for directing that healing journey across all those dimensions that I talked about yesterday, those physical, mental, emotional, spiritual aspects. Yeah. With HTMA, we can highlight and address imbalances literally from both of those ends. And that helps us get to that root of the issue so much quicker and more effectively. Yeah, we're supporting all aspects of ourselves. Okay. So I've touched on the relationship there between sodium and magnesium and between zinc and copper. And now I want to share with you 3 other relationships, so you can really, if you've not already, see the power of HTMA and what knowing your mineral profile can do for you, that you will get it from this. Now, I don't want you to get caught in the biochemistry. I know, like, I talk a lot of science stuff, and I love it. It's passionate. It's not necessary for you to understand that to gain from this talk. And I'm going to be giving you support even if you don't have a HTMA done. So do stick with me. You're still going to find a lot of value from this session. As I talk through these ratios, I want you to jot down what's resonating for you, what's standing out for you. Is anything hitting home in the symptoms that I'm sharing? And then we can sort of look at the support. I'm going to offer you some support at the end that you can do. Okay. So the first relationship that I want to talk about is between calcium and potassium. Now, this is a ratio that gives us an insight into our thyroid function. I'm starting with this one because it's super relevant for Energy Week. Our thyroid is a butterfly-shaped organ in our neck, and it's responsible for regulating many energy-dependent systems in the body. It plays a key role in our metabolism, in our digestion, in our elimination, appetite, energy, temperature, sleep, mood, all the things. And it's a key driver for our energy powerhouse. People can exist without a thyroid, but they need those synthetic thyroid hormones to be able to function properly, or bioidentical hormones to be able to function properly. Now, when we have an imbalance in this calcium and potassium, and we've got more calcium relative to potassium, this is showing me that we've got a lower thyroid function, or more accurately, the thyroid hormone isn't able to get properly into the cells. We need potassium to sensitize the cell to thyroid hormone, and if we don't have enough potassium, it can't get into the cell to do its job, to do all the beautiful thyroid hormone things that it does. So when this is happening, we start to see things with weight fluctuations, a flat mood, depression, tendencies as well towards being rigid and inflexible, both mentally and physically, like stuck in our ways, anxiety, hair loss, irritability, cold hands and feet, a lack of an ability to sweat, fatigue, dry skin and hair, constipation. And we often also see high cholesterol in our blood tests. And this is often a connection that's not made, and we focus largely on diet and things to help with the cholesterol support. But it's because we don't have enough of the T3 hormone, which is needed to reduce that amount of LDL, which could be very much related to how this thyroid hormone is getting into the cells. It's not that sensitization is not happening. So the thyroid hormone can't do its thing, and it can't do that relative thing to help clear the cholesterol. Okay. So it could be, if you are someone that's experiencing high cholesterol, I was one of these people, and I eat very, very healthily and well, but it's because of an underfunctioning thyroid. Okay. And that's often missed, but that could be a key player to help you regain your health. Now, opposite to that, if we've got a lower calcium relative to potassium, this suggests the opposite, a faster thyroid, hyperthyroid tendencies. And this is contributing to that apple body shaped structure. So this is more likely to get that belly fat, which is correlation to high cortisol, high stress hormones, and we get more of that belly fat. It's also typical to see with a high sodium to magnesium ratio, which is about that adrenal function, because adrenals are that sort of backup generator in times of stress. Often these type of people are very outgoing, loud in your face people, go, go, go. They also have a tendency sometimes to be more anger orientated and more anxiety. And they could often burn themselves out quite a lot. Now, when these minerals are out of balance, we can also see problems with calcium metabolism, and this can lead to conditions like osteoporosis, brittle bones, weak muscles, cramps in our body, particularly with the bones. If you've noticed a translucency or less whitening to your teeth, that can be calcium leaving the teeth. So this is an indication that maybe you need more potassium. Okay, so low potassium can impair that calcium utilization. That leads to weaker bones again and teeth. Calcium can actually deposit, therefore it's not where it should be in the bones and teeth, and it starts to deposit in places where it doesn't belong. The arteries, we can get plaque build up in the arteries, kidney stones, gallstones, other tissues, bone spurs, things like that. Okay. Now, interestingly, blood tests might in this case show a low vitamin D level. And this isn't because there's a deficiency, it's because the body is deliberately keeping it low to avoid that soft tissue calcification. Okay. Unfortunately, not many practitioners understand that relationship, and they recommend vitamin D supplementation, synthetic vitamin D supplementation, when they see a blood test with low vitamin D. They don't investigate why is it low. But in taking a vitamin D supplement, which is actually acts more like a hormone in the body, without addressing those underlying mineral imbalances, we can further deplete magnesium. We can also deplete our vitamin K2, which is actually needed to shuttle that calcium into the bones and teeth. It depletes potassium, and it depletes retinol A. Really important for our copper, for our iron metabolism, so we can start to see issues with iron as well, and maybe low anemias and things like that, because the iron isn't able to be moved around the body properly. Okay, so this is all things that are really key to understanding. You've got to look right back to the minerals, what's happening there. Your body, again, it's super smart. If something is low, absolutely, it could be because you're not consuming enough of it, but it could also be a sort of healing mechanism or a buffering mechanism that your body is working with. Okay, so calcium-potassium ratio reflects thyroid function and metabolic function, and when the ratio is out of balance, energy can feel quite stagnant, can lead to fatigue, can lead to difficulty handling stress. Okay, so if this is kind of resonating to you, if you're feeling like lots of these things sound very familiar to what I'm struggling with, then a pretty safe supplement to take is a vitamin K2 supplement in the MK7 form. Most people benefit from this because it's what helps to move the calcium from the tissues where it doesn't belong and supports that proper calcium metabolism. Also focusing on those high potassium foods, coconut water, bananas, avocados, sweet potatoes, that's going to really help support that balance as well. Now, because it's not all about that sort of physical side of things, we've also got the emotional aspects. Reflect on areas of your life where you might feel stuck or like you're holding on to things that no longer serve you. How can you invite more flow and adaptability into your daily life? Just ask yourself these questions and just see what comes up for you. Okay, so that's calcium, potassium, all about the thyroid. The next relationship that I want to talk about is between calcium and magnesium. This is known as our blood sugar or mood ratio. Now, the relationship between calcium and magnesium is fascinating. It can be influenced by our diet, but also by our attitude and even our lifestyle factors like our relationships, our location, our work environment. Now, calcium, it embodies more of that yang kind of father energy. It's quite solidifying, cementing, whereas conversely, magnesium is that more yin, maternal energy, and it represents that more flexibility, more fluidity. So we want a nice balance between that sort of solidifying and the flexibility side of things. Yeah. Calcium, it tends to be constipating. It's quite hydrophobic. So we could have drier stools, more constipation. While magnesium is a laxative, it's hydrophilic. It loves water. It draws water into the bowels, and therefore we can get looser stools, diarrhea. Magnesium keeps calcium in solution. And when magnesium is low, calcium is more likely, therefore, to deposit again in those tissues, like we spoke about previously with the thyroid hormone. So we can get things like kidney stones, gallstones. These minerals also help to regulate our blood sugar. And blood sugar, of course, is that fuel in our body, creating our energy. And stable blood sugar is stable moods as well. Okay. When the calcium actually aids in insulin release, magnesium moderates insulin release. So that can really help with how we're doing things, and of course with diabetes and things like that. And so when we've got a higher calcium to magnesium ratio, we can get muscle tension and aches, cardiovascular issues because of that calcium deposit. We can get diabetes, we can get sugar cravings, insomnia, constipation, and nervousness. Emotionally, it's often linked to a trauma. Calcium is literally like a protective shell. If you think of calcium carbonate shells, it's literally like a shell that your body puts up to protect yourself from traumas. And in this sense, we can feel quite disconnected or rigid, both mentally and physically as well. Okay, it's literally called a calcium shell pattern in the mineral profile. Opposite to that, so high magnesium to calcium, this can be associated with greater relaxation, with emotional stability and improved sleep quality. However, when we get an extreme imbalance there, again, we can start to see the osteoporosis, loose bowel movements, muscle cramps, anxiety. Emotionally or spiritually, it can indicate defensiveness or a fear of change, with an inability to let go of the past, releasing emotions like anger, guilt, and resentment. Dr. Eck actually observed that this imbalance of calcium magnesium can reveal patterns of pretense, or essentially living out of alignment. So he says a person is not living outwardly in full integrity or unity with who he or she really is. So this could manifest in ways like we're working in the wrong type of job, we're eating the wrong foods, we're staying in the wrong environment. Often there's this disconnect between how someone sort of views themselves and their authentic truth. They're sort of lying to themselves, if you will. So recognizing these imbalances in the profile can offer profound insights for us. If you're striving for change, feeling stuck, this ratio can help illuminate the areas that might need attention for you. And by addressing those mental and emotional blocks through that mindset work, through coaching, alongside supporting the minerals nutritionally, the progress that you want, it becomes far more achievable and sustainable. So calcium magnesium reflects that body balance between tension and relaxation, blood sugar, mood, living in alignment with who we are. So if this is resonating to you, I recommend that you try a magnesium chloride foot bath. So it's magnesium flakes generally, not Epsom salts, which is magnesium sulfate. So this is more about cellular magnesium. And including a little bit of boron, organic borax, and sodium bicarbonate in there can really help to carry that magnesium into the cell and keep it there rather than us losing it, which can often happen. So this combo is a really sort of soothing way to replenish that magnesium whilst also supporting detoxification, relaxation, things like that. So about half a cup of magnesium flakes in a foot bath and about a tablespoon of boron and a tablespoon of sodium bicarbonate. And just sitting with that for 20 minutes, half an hour, at least once a week, a couple of times a week, that's going to help support that magnesium. Now, I know I spoke before about supplementing magnesium without knowing your sodium levels. So this is why it's like, don't do it every single day without knowing what's going on with your sodium. But going topically through the skin like this is a much gentler way. It's not going to have such an aggressive effect on your sodium levels if that is an issue for you, as taking it orally would do. Okay, it's a much lower dose and it goes literally into the cells through that transdermal pathway. So much nicer thing. And again, just pay attention to your symptoms. If you're feeling good, then great. If you're feeling worse, then it's not for you. And maybe you need to work more on raising that sodium level. Okay. Also incorporating sort of 10 minutes of just mindful breathing, of gratitude practice to really ground you into your life at present. Like, are you living in alignment? Yeah. You might get some really interesting downloads when doing that. Start to ask yourself, like, where in your life do you feel tension or resistance? Where are you not living in your truth? Maybe you're living for somebody else and not really aligned to you. Often people pleasers can be in this tendency as well. So what's one small action that you can take to invite more ease or relaxation into that area? Okay, the last relationship, I know we're getting close on time now. I'm going to speed through. The last relationship is probably the most important relationship. It's the sodium-potassium relationship. So people call this the life or death ratio, which I think is rather dramatic. I like to talk about it more being that vitality or stress ratio. And this is because it plays that central role in maintaining body energy and resilience to stress. And it's absolutely crucial for many foundational functions, including how our nutrients are actually carried into cells and the wastes are carried out of cells, so allowing that cells to breathe and function. For adrenal, kidney, liver function, so really important for that body's ability to recover from stress. And it's also really important, sodium and potassium are considered solvents, the body's solvents. And so the solubility of the minerals. So when sodium and potassium levels are too low, the body's minerals reserves essentially drop out of solution and we start to deposit into the skin, the muscles, arteries, joints, which cause issues with like stiffness, pain, reduced mobility, and things like that. Okay. Now, a high sodium to potassium ratio, that's indicating to me that there's an acute stressor. There's a big stressor here, and that's straining on the adrenals because the adrenals are like that backup system in stress. They come in to sort of help rescue and give us that little bit of energy, extra energy to get through. Sodium is excitatory. It's supportive in times of stress. I like to think of that Wonder Woman sort of persona. She's surviving off sheer willpower, like stress and drama, but managing it all. I'm sure there's lots of women that can relate to this. We're not sleeping well, we're not eating properly, but we're still getting through. We're managing it all. We're doing everything still until we're not. And maybe the symptoms that we're getting here is again that sort of that wired feeling inside, that irritation, that anxiety, that heightened reactivity, that anger. As well as fluid retention and issues like hypertension. So that irritability, anxiety and things, that was very much what I was relating to. So it was, again, the copper, but again, that had a completely bottomed out sodium potassium ratio as well when I first started. And this is, of course, how it was coming through. Now, conversely to that, so that's a high sodium to potassium ratio, the lower sodium to potassium ratio, which actually often will follow that because we're not able to sustain high stress. We're not made to have stress all the time. We want a quick stress and then back to normal, quick stress and then back to normal. But if we're constantly stressed, the body's like, this isn't normal, and it starts to shut down. And so the sodium that the adrenals are pumping out starts to drop. And then we get a drop in this sodium potassium ratio, this depletion, this burnout. Okay, now this is really common in postpartum. overwhelm, all of those extra stresses that we're dealing with then, or even just navigating a time of prolonged stress without adequately recovering or replenishing and restoring your body. Symptoms here can include exhaustion, poor digestion, because we need that sodium for our stomach acid. We also need zinc for our stomach acid, which depletes in high stress environments as well. So we don't have that stomach acid production, which again can then leave us open to infections in the gut, okay? Or like food that just kind of sits in your tummy, it doesn't digest very well. Also a reduced immunity, allergies, hay fever, we're more reactive to dust when we're cleaning, things like that, low stamina. And in fact, that can also be linked very much, the hay fever and dust allergies is also linked very much to copper. We can also get depression, we can get apathy, frustration, low mood, feeling stuck. We've got a loss of vitality and optimism, feeling disconnected from life and trapped in a cycle of stress, like spinning our wheels, if you will. We feel like we're doing all the right things and we're just not getting any traction. When sodium to potassium drops too low, that's signaling a state of depletion that can leave the body really unable to cope with even small stresses. Partner chewing their food and you're like, ugh. Being asked a simple question and really, really irritated. Noise and irritation. Overwhelm easily. Someone's just coming on, sorry. I'm getting distracted. It's often a result as well of long-term stress from sources like physical stresses, so toxins, infections, metals, injuries, emotional stresses, so trauma, grief, demanding schedules, financial pressures, negative self-talk and worry, and lifestyle things, so overwork, lack of boundaries, addressing sleep. So that's the sodium potassium ratio, the life or death ratio, which is vitality and stress resilience. Okay, so if this is looking for you, I recommend taking something like an adrenal cocktail. Now you can Google adrenal cocktail and you can combine, there's lots of different recipes. So I got very distracted. Someone just came on and then they've gone off and I've lost my train. So my ADHD brain going all over. So if this ratio is really working for you, an adrenal cocktail is really good. So you can Google adrenal cocktail and you'll get lots of different varieties and different variations of how to make an adrenal cocktail. My favorite way is just through combining orange juice, coconut water, and a pinch of sea salt. This replenishes all that sort of sodium and potassium. Naturally, it really helps supporting that adrenal system. It's giving all those nutrients that the adrenals need to help provide that resilience. And I often recommend that you take this sort of when you're feeling that biggest slump of energy, so that mid-afternoon slump or that mid-morning slump, as a bit of an energy boost. So introduce it there, see how you feel. If you're feeling good, then great. Continue with that, and you can take sort of up to 2 of those a day to really help support your adrenal system through that time there. Also, because it's very much about hydration, sodium potassium about that hydration of the cells, having just general things like trace minerals. I love Aussie trace minerals, or even just a pinch of sea salt into your water can really enhance the absorption of the water, okay? You hear a lot about electrolytes at the moment. Often a lot of these are quite high sodium based. If you're taking these and you're noticing that you're swelling quite a lot in your body, then you probably need to focus on potassium before you focus on sodium. But sodium in general is very good for stress resilience, okay? Now, my favorite is Beam Minerals. I'm going to provide you with a discount code in the email that follows this. And this is a mix of electrolytes, but it also combines amino acids, fulvic and humic acid, which are multi-minerals in themselves, but they really help to carry, again, the nutrients into cells and get the toxins out of cells. It's a really neutral tasting supplement and really beneficial. Now, emotionally, start to think about where you might be overexerting yourself. What is one boundary that you can set or one task you can delegate to create more space for recovery for yourself? Start to ask yourself those questions. Okay, so these are just a few examples of what your mineral relationships can reveal. Hopefully, they will give you a sense of just how much information we can uncover and validation, which was the biggest key for me, that we can get for you in terms of your symptoms. More importantly, how we can use this to guide a wellness plan, especially where you're struggling with fatigue and low energy. Yeah. It's also a reminder that healing isn't just about supplements and diet protocols. It encompasses that whole aspect of well-being that I was talking about yesterday, that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual side of things. True energy vitality comes from addressing that whole picture. Yeah, absolutely. Start with one thing and see how that goes and start to implement the rest. But really, if you wanted to address all these areas in the end. So I want to just invite you now for just take a little minute for self-reflection and just check in with yourself. How have you been feeling this past week, this past month, this past year? Do you find yourself feeling tired even after what seems like enough sleep? Are you struggling to focus? Are you feeling mentally scattered or distracted? Do you feel overwhelmed, stuck in cycles you want to get out of, but you don't know how, or constantly running on empty? Have you had low vitamin D, high cholesterol on your bloods? How could in all of these things, if you're feeling any of these things, there could be signs of hidden mineral imbalances that are affecting your energy and your overall well-being. Supporting your minerals doesn't just address physical symptoms. It can create that foundation for those mindset shifts to also happen with more ease. Yeah, for those personality things that we might not necessarily like about ourselves, for us to shift those with more ease. What could change if you had that kind of insight, that support, that coaching that empowers your body, your mind to work together? This is the kind of transformation that I help my clients with, a shift that supports you literally from the inside out. Okay, now I know I've shared a lot of information with you today, but this key takeaway that I want is that minerals are foundational to your energy, your health, and vitality. They play a vital part in your life, whether you're going to get that HTMA or not. Yeah. When you understand what your body needs and why, you can take actionable steps towards real lasting change. You don't have to accept feeling drained, feeling overwhelmed, or stuck as your new normal. Support is available for you. Change is possible. This is exactly what I offer inside my Radiate from Within program. It's a 6-month journey that's designed to help you deeply understand your body's needs through 2 HTMAs, personalized protocols, and coaching to guide you your whole transformation. If that resonates with you, then I invite you to book a first step chat with me to determine whether it is the next right step for you. Now, as always, if you do have questions about today's session, you can please just email me at hello@drcarlaatkinson.com. I will be answering them during our live Q&A call on the 2nd of January. Tomorrow's workshop is going to be all about practical steps to sustain energy that you've been dreaming of, so those foundations to thriving. And just remember, your energy and health are within your control. You just need the right tools, the right support, and the belief that it's possible. Okay? So I'll see you tomorrow.